Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Happy Friday. There's a lot going on right now, a lot going on politically, particularly. It's 18 days to go into the election. Millions of people are voting. But it has never been more clear that we are now in a third spike in coronavirus cases in this country. Just looking at the graphs in the Coronavirus Tracking Project, which we use here on All on a Lot, there were 68,000 new cases recorded in the United States just today. Now, to give you a sense of that, they have not been this high since July 30th. That was back during that summer spike. And they are not that far from the record-setting 77,000 cases earlier that month in July. Also, 37,000 of those people have been hospitalized. And that number is, as you can see there in that blue chart, the third one, is increasingly headed in the wrong direction. And of course, the deaths follow all that. 877 Americans died from coronavirus just today. In a moment, we're going to talk to some people on the front lines. You're going to hear some headlines, and it is all going to sound maddeningly familiar. And looking at that first spike, if you bend over backwards to be charitable to all the policymakers involved, Democrat, Republican, federal, local, you could say, look, this thing was novel, and it was difficult, and mistakes were made, but they were made under conditions of incredible duress. I mean, we certainly did not do very well as a country. There was incompetence at all levels. There was almost no testing. Not enough policymakers heeded the warnings early enough to save enough lives. And more leaders should have come forward to say we messed that up badly. Then came the second spike, a second summer spike that no other country really had. I want to be clear about this. I mean, we were really alone here. And that second spike, the one that you're looking at right there, that was just really born of a concerted act of political denial in which President Trump and sympathetic Republican governors pushed to open states in contradiction of the guidelines by the president's own CDC, right? They had a checklist and they just blew through it. And that produced, predictably, a spike that killed 100,000 Americans. A summer event that was unlike anywhere else in the world. See us there? No one really had that. People had one spike. We had two by the time we had it in the fall. And the absolute best that can be said of that summer spike is that they were in denial or they were subject to wishful thinking. Well, now here we are. We're going into the third spike, and there's nothing left to say other than the president and the Republican Party supporting him are willfully getting people killed. They all know what they're doing at this point. There are no more excuses. They just think American lives don't have much value. And while it probably does not meet the legal threshold for criminal behavior in a deep, visceral, moral sense, that is what it feels like. Fresh off his own bout of COVID and his own cluster in the White House, today the president's re-election campaign brought him to Florida, where the goal was to woo back the senior citizens that have been turning against him in droves. Donald Trump deployed his coronavirus lies at the most vulnerable people in America, indoors with only a smattering of masks, telling them they are sacrificing themselves for the greater good.
My message to America's seniors today is one of optimism, confidence, and hope. Your sacrifice has not been in vain. The light at the end of the tunnel is near. We are rounding the turn. I say that all the time. Some of the media doesn't like hearing it.
If you're always rounding the turn, then things are not getting better. See how that works? Because here is what rounding the turn this time really looks like across America.
13 more deaths from COVID-19 in South Dakota today. Also, a record number of active cases, while the new number of cases, the total number tops 31,000.
And now let's take a look at the latest COVID numbers here in Indiana. And they are breaking records, unfortunately. State health leaders are reporting 1,960 positive cases across the state. That's the most we've had in one day, beating the previous record last Friday.
Afternoon, Wisconsin Secretary for the Department of Health Services says the state is in a crisis responding to the COVID-19 virus, adding, quote, "This is going to get worse before it gets better."
Carrying out a long tradition of Republican politicians only seemingly able to understand a policy issue when it directly affects them, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who had a very serious case of coronavirus and was in intensive care for 7 days after attending several maskless events with President Trump, came out today to say, I was wrong. Wear a mask.
Within 24 hours, I went from feeling absolutely fine to being in the intensive care unit. It was a mistake. You know, I was led to believe that, you know, all the people that I was interacting with at the White House had been tested, and it gave you a false sense of security. And it was a mistake.
There was a false sense of security at the White House that was a mistake that led to people getting sick and then being hospitalized and coming within inches of his life. Now, let's be clear. Christie saying these basic truths is essentially a repudiation of Donald Trump, because that's where we're at. In fact, I noticed this, I don't know if you did, it was incredibly creepy to me and bizarre and heartless that one of the president's most loyal advisors, right, who almost definitely got COVID from the president, someone close to him, because he was advising him on the debate, was incommunicado in a hospital for a week. And as far as I could tell, not one person in the White House said a single thing publicly about him. Because to do so, to talk about the close advisor of the president who is in the ICU would be to acknowledge the seriousness of the virus. And to acknowledge the seriousness of the virus is to insult dear leader Donald Trump. But now as their electoral fortunes look more and more dismal, we are watching some Republican officials start to create some distance between themselves and the president. But it is way, way, way too late for that. They have all brought this moment about together. And it is hard to come to any other conclusion that the deaths of tens of thousands of Americans are on their hands.